Yeah, fuck Hollywood, fuck all these reality shows, making us feel lame unless we blowing stacks on new clothes, making us feel like we ain't cool unless we have a few hoes, making us feel like we ugly unless we have a new nose. I see naturally beautiful women get Botox, fake tits, fake lips, they so brainwashed and it doesn't make sense. Focus on your life and the path you pursuing, cause y'all too busy worried about what Kim Kardashian's doing. Check it, most of the shit that you see.
Or whatever. Just because somebody mentions God does not mean they're like, oh, like they can't acknowledge God. Is it bad to say, like, what are they supposed to say? Satan on the track? So should he go, I pray Satan? Like, what are they expecting?
On Jesus Walks, if I talk about God, then my record won't get played.
Yeah.
It's like, man, all these people will talk about killing, sex, all this shit, and the radio will play it. Dude, but if you talk about God, then
this is how sinister. This is important too. This is how sinister this industry is, and that is so true. You talk about God, your record won't get played. But yeah, I explained the chain reaction of like rappers talking about the negative shit, popping mollies, turning up, doing all that stupid shit. But if you talk about God, why wouldn't you want to spread that message to somebody's mind? That means the radio stations are going, you know what, let's play this because it's going to fuck these people's minds up and it's going to cause them to do more fucked up shit, which puts them in a lower position. So it gives them more of a chance to not be like the people who are successful. And it's like, why would they want to do that to society? That's fucked up. And that's even like, I feel like if a radio station goes, we're not gonna play that because it's gospel. So a rapper can go, I'm turning up, I'm smoking, I'm drinking, I'm doing this, I'm fucking in the club, doing whatever. They can say that, but you can't say God, you can't talk about God. Like, that sounds like Satan to me. It seems like something Satan would do. Would be like, no, we don't talk about him over here. No, we just play this stuff because we're trying to fuck up mine. So that sounds like something Satan would do. But it looks like it's nice though. It's like, yeah, radio station, 5601, yeah, your local radio station, where hip hop lives, and it sounds cool. Like, yeah, but then it's like, why would you only play that fucked up music? Something's going on. That's when you snap out of it and go, something's going on here.
this is Jonathan Cahn, the author of The Harbinger, standing in New York City. And we're about to see another manifestation, a harbinger of where we are headed. In the book, The Harbinger, it opens up the mystery of the last days of ancient Israel. Israel was a nation that had known God, was founded by God and on His word, but in their prosperity, the people turned away from God. They turned away from the God of their foundation, and they turned to the god Baal. And they offered up their children as sacrifices on the altars of Baal. They called what was evil good and what was good evil. They drove God out of their government, out of their culture, out of the lives of their children. They persecuted and hunted down the righteous. And they did this all as they worshiped Baal. And the Harbinger reveals the 9 signs or harbingers that appeared in the last days of ancient Israel, and that those same signs, harbingers, are now appearing on American soil. Some of them, many of them, right here in New York City, some in Washington, D.C., but here we are in the city of most of the harbingers, starting with 9/11 and the attack on America. Now, one of the things about the template of the Harbinger is that when the first warnings came, when the warning came to ancient Israel, they ignored them and they got even worse. They departed even more brazenly against the ways of God. They made the vow, the declaration that Isaiah recorded, Isaiah 9:10, the bricks have fallen, but we will rebuild with hewn stone. The sycamores have been cut down, but we will plant cedars in their place. So they're saying we're going to get worse, we're going to come back greater, but without you, God. So spiritually, they were going to descend even worse and worse and worse. And that's exactly the template that we are seeing in America. Since 9/11, we have followed the template of ancient Israel, not only with the harbingers appearing, but with increasing defiance, increasing the calling of evil good and good evil, increasing in every way immorality. And when the judgment finally came, after the warning, years later, the judgment came to ancient Israel, the people of Israel were worshiping Baal. Now, Baal their real name was Baal. It means Lord or Master. Baal was the substitute god. He was the god of their apostasy. He was the god that they turned to when they turned away from the God of their fathers. Baal was the anti-god, or representing their fall. America has followed that pattern. The harbingers have appeared. Could the sign of Baal appear in the land? Could the sign of Baal, the sign of a nation that has turned away from God, a nation that has embarked on defiance of God and judgment, could that sign appear in this land? And we are here today to witness that sign appearing on American soil. And it is September 19th, 2016. I'm standing in New York City, in City Hall Park, on a rainy Monday afternoon, a little past 1. And what you see in back of me, about to be unveiled, covered up, is the arch that led to the Temple of Baal. In a moment, they're going to have a ceremony, they're going to unveil it, and there'll be American leaders here, and what you will see on American soil
For over 100 years, Skull and Bones members have included a president, vice presidents, Supreme Court justices, congressmen and senators, captains of science and industry, the very best of America.
Their God is for, their advisor, their better for the Kaiser.
So shall we burn thee once again this night, and in the flames that eat thine effigy, we shall read the sign, Midsummer sets us free.
You shall burn me once again. Not with these flames.
Summer sets us free.
Now a question. What have Herbert Hoover, Art Linkletter, Jack London, and Richard Nixon all had in common? Well, they've all been members of the exclusive all-male Bohemian Club in California, where every year at this time, the elite from around the country get together for 2.5 weeks of fun and games. Steve Shepard has this special assignment report.
More than 2,000 members of San Francisco's exclusive and all-male Bohemian Club have once again descended on Northern California. These men will spend most of the month of July encamped on some 2,700 acres of pristine and privately owned redwood forest. Forest very much like this. The place is called Bohemian Grove, and it's located just 80 miles north of San Francisco. The Grove is the Bohemian Club's summer retreat, and its facilities are hidden beneath lush forest canopy extending south from the banks of Sonoma County's Russian River. For more than a century, the camp has been a place where club members and guests from all across America gather to relax. The retreat is divided into dozens of small camps, the most prominent of which is called Mandalay. Among its members are businessmen like Leonard Firestone and Edgar Kaiser, and political figures like Gerald Ford, Henry Kissinger, William French Smith, and George Shultz. President Reagan, Vice President Bush, and Defense Secretary Weinberger are members of other camps. Richard Nixon is a Bohemian, and so are high-ranking executives of such companies as Eastern Airlines, Standard Oil of Indiana, and Bank of America. For the most part, the men of Bohemian Grove are over 50, highly successful, and, according to many employees, politically conservative.
Well, each year, many of them seem to have a stunt or try to come up with a stunt. Last year, in 1980, the popular button was Free the Fortune 500.
Membership in the Grove is by invitation only and is determined by such factors as social standing, occupation, and personal connections. Privacy is one of the Grove's most cherished virtues. Members may not photograph, record, speak, or write about activities at the retreat. While many public officials are Grove members, the press is a distinctly unwelcome guest.
We're from ABC News.
Well, get back there.
Can we talk to somebody in there?
Get back there.
Anyone willing to navigate a boat up the Russian River can get a glimpse of the northern edge of the compound, but that's about all. Still, there are outsiders who have researched the Grove. Sociology professor William Dumhoff found out enough to write a book on the place.
Well, I think it's a playground for the powerful. It's a place where wealthy men from all of the United States gather for 2 weeks to relive summer camp with this ceremony called the cremation of care that begins the 2-week encampment where the body of dull care, symbolizing woes and concerns, is burned on an altar in front of a big owl statue. When that ceremony ends, they all start to cheer and yell and hand each other a beer. And
other regular activities include a production of 2 plays, one of which involves major sets, orchestral music, and extravagant costumes. The other play appears to be just a bit on the lighter side, at least judging from these old photos. Members also spend time swimming, hiking, relaxing in the sun, and doing a bit of drinking from the Grove's own privately labeled spirits. Like a boys' camp, the Grove has a symbol, in this case a somewhat fierce-looking owl. It also has a patron saint, St. John of Nepomuk, a legitimate 13th century Bohemian canonized for his sense of honor. What the Grove does not have is any women, not even as employees. Despite its camp-like atmosphere, the Grove does host some serious business.
To the degree that there's anything important happens at the Bohemian Grove, it's political. The important speeches that have been made at the Bohemian Grove have been made, for instance, and the best example, by Richard Nixon. Eisenhower gave a speech there. It was the first time the West Coast establishment really saw him close up.
Discussions at the Grove in the 1930s helped lead to the development of nuclear power and the atomic bomb. It was at the Grove in 1967 that Richard Nixon and Ronald Reagan hashed out differences over their presidential ambitions. Each year, guests like Henry Kissinger or Zbigniew Brzezinski address members on their areas of expertise. Presidential counselor Edwin Meese will be among this year's speakers. And each year, other guests come to the Grove simply to enjoy themselves. This year, CIA Director William Casey is a scheduled guest of John McCone, former CIA Director. Baseball Commissioner Bowie Kuhn has been invited as a guest of baseball owner Peter O'Malley. Despite the presence of so many notables, the Grove is not without its small headaches. Anti-nuclear demonstrators gathered near the entrance to the retreat this year to wave signs and chant slogans. The Grove is also facing a suit from the state of California because it refuses to hire women. Still, the Bohemian Grove seems in no danger of passing. Herbert Hoover called it the world's greatest men's party, and there is a list of powerful people waiting to get in on it. Steve Shepard, ABC News, San Francisco.
Whoa, wasn't it the Palmyra Arch they put up in New York and London? Nimrod. Rising from destruction. Well, there you go. Nimrod rising from destruction, Palmyra Arch. It's in plain sight, really, isn't it? What it's all about. London and New York Arch, Palmyra. I gave a phone call to the Institute for Digital Archaeology, and they assured me that this arch is nothing to do with Baal, that they actually changed those plans because of the backlash of the public. So instead that they were going to now be building the Ark of Triumph, which is actually a Roman human achievement and nothing to do with pagan deities or Mesopotamia. But listen to this news report.
This is how Palmyra looked as ISIL took control the triumphal arch before the group destroyed it. Today, the 2,000-year-old arch from the Temple of Baal looks like this. And year-old arch from the Temple of Baal looks like this.
It is not the Temple of Baal.
So the news are just blatantly coming out with it. From the Temple of Baal.
My friends, this is very, very sinister. The Triumphal Arch of Palmyra is only about 50 yards away from the Temple of Baal. It has been floodlit, bright red. Today is the Feast of Moloch, the first day of the blood sacrifice to the beast.
This date around the time of Passover on April the 22nd, and then to illuminate it blood red in Trafalgar Square for 3 days and 3 nights, as well as, may I add, right in the position in Trafalgar Square where they had a massive performance at Easter. They had the crucifixion played out right in the position in Trafalgar Square where now, as Pastor D is showing, that they've built this archway for 3 days and 3 nights that's been illuminated blood red around the time of Passover.
Today, the 2,000-year-old arch from the Temple of Baal.
Nimrod. Rising from destruction.
There is a passageway to the most evil place you can imagine. A gate behind which the demons wait.
just crazy, really, when, you know, I'm told on the phone that it's purely a Roman triumphal arch and nothing to do with Baal. But when you go to Rome, you go into the Colosseum and there's an exhibition saying, "Rising from destruction, Palmyra, Nimrod." I honestly do believe, as scientists and archaeologists, their primary interest is in recreating things that have been destroyed because of the history of it and the archaeology, the architecture, and obviously they don't have an understanding of the biblical meaning and spiritual meaning of this, and also the times that we live in. So, as for the scientists, I tend to believe that those from the Institute of Digital Archaeology do not realise that perhaps they are being used in a greater scheme of things. But at the end of the day, we know that our battle is not against flesh and blood. But I have to say, this is all very strange. And this is the great trick, you know, this is very well could be how it all plays out, especially to begin with. You know, that Christians are seen as weak, that those who humble themselves are seen as weak, those that aren't going to join that agenda, they're seen as weak because the New Age is going to want to get rid of them. There's even quotations about that somehow we're holding it all back. And so the ones that don't follow the pride of this will be seen as the weak ones that need to be hunted. So hunt or be hunted. Join with the beast or be hunted.
And Cush begat Nimrod. He began to be a mighty one in the earth. He was a mighty hunter before the Lord. Wherefore it is said, even as Nimrod, the mighty hunter before the Lord. And the beginning of his kingdom was Babel. The beginning of his kingdom was Babel.
Which, as near as I can tell, it's a King James version.
We don't have horror books. No. Yeah, Mason Bible. Totally demonic. Well, for Masonic use, so they've got alternate definitions of words. But what really shocked me the first time I picked this up, sun god, Ra, Amen, the Father of gods, the Creator, published in the Freemason Bible, which, as near as I can tell, it's a King James version. People like Jordan Maxwell and the woman who made Ring of Power, they try and mix up language and they say, oh, well, when you say Amen at the end of a prayer, you're really, this is who you're saying your prayer to, Amen Ra. Well, that's a lie. No, Amen is Hebrew for so be it, or it is so.
So be it, or something.
I think
like
it's so be it. It's Hebrew. Talk to anyone who's Hebrew and say, what does Amen mean? And they'll say, well, it is so. And that's the truth. That's why we say Amen at the end of a prayer, because it's Hebrew for so be it. I think it's so be it. But these liars are trying to convince everyone that you're praying to Amen Ra, the sun god. That's the mystery religions. They mix in all these lies and pagan sun worshipping, trying to corrupt and pervert everything.
So the Christian halo comes from these.
Yeah, I know, yeah. The halo never appeared.
Never in the Bible says anything about anything like that.
Until the 4th century, yeah. And so we've got all this Babylonian crap mixed in here. And these are, there's an obelisk Well, that was Osiris's penis. That's phallic worship. Yeah, and the Washington Monument, it's an Egyptian obelisk. There's one at the middle of St. Peter's Square in the Vatican. There's another one in the middle of the city of London. These Egyptian obelisks, what are they doing all over the planet?
The Oval Office is actually a female genitalia.
Yeah.
The steeple is actually penetrating it. If you look
Well, yeah,
at it from a certain angle, it's a steeple penetrating the Oval Office, which is a female.
You just need to watch Christian J. Pinto's are about the history and blah, blah, blah. But then you flip to the back, and there's all this Egyptian, Babylonian account of the building of the walls and temples of Babylon. Masonic Bible, that's what it says. This is copyrighted 1928. And it opens up with the Holy Bible in Freemasonry and explains, they try and justify or convince the unsuspecting Mason that the first degree, when you're doing the ceremony, you're asked, what do you seek? Light. And then the second degree, it's what do you seek? More light. And then the third degree, what do you seek? Further light. And they rise up through the degrees. Now, Stan Monteith does a great presentation called The Hidden Secret. And the hidden secret, which is revealed at the 33rd degree, is that the light you've been seeking all of this time is the light of the light bearer, Lucifer. The Ralph Epperson presentation, the second witness to the apocalypse, goes into all this in great detail with the quotes directly from Manly P. Hall and Albert Pike. It explains how all Masons swear an oath to destroy Christianity at all costs, regardless of whether you have to murder, lie, steal, doesn't matter, everything is justified. Here we get into page 7, and they're explaining how the Bible became a great light. See, they use this term, light, great light, all the way through, and the hidden secret, which is not revealed until the 33rd degree, is what the light really is. Yeah. So we get into the story of the English Bible, and there's all this stuff prefacing the actual beginning of the Bible. King Solomon's temple. It's all very startling. I'm trying to be careful because it's a Masonic Bible. Okay, the construction of the temple, they're getting into Solomon's temple. Masonic ritual. Okay, we're on page 31. And then we get page 33. The Holy Bible starts on page 33. Could that be a coincidence? What's the significance of 33? The Holy Bible starts on the 33rd page of the Masonic Bible. Pretty demonic, isn't it? And I haven't gone through it in great detail. It appears to be a King James version. But then you flip to the back, and there's all this Egyptian, Babylonian symbols and how it relates to the content of the book. And seals, hieroglyphs that are taken off seals. And I'm looking at this, and I'm going, this Babylonian shit has nothing to do with this book. This is like, I put it down and went, oh, this is bad.